Joining us now to break down where we stand in the 2020 race is Corrin Rankin, an RNC delegate and an advisory board member for the group Black Voices for Trump. So, Corrin, when we look at this latest VP sweepstakes, it's all anybody's really been able to talk about for the beginning of this week. We are expected to get an announcement sometime later this week. But when we look at the top candidates, we have Kamala Harris, Karen Bass, Susan Rice. Is there any one that sticks out to you as more problematic for the Trump campaign?
No, not at all. In order for it to be a problem with the Trump campaign, the vice presidential candidate would have to be somebody that would have to be better than Joe Biden. And at this point, we're not seeing anything like that. I don't see anyone from the current slate of VP potentials that would be problematic in any way.
And I think that's an interesting point because a lot of people will say that the VP almost has to be ready to lead right away because there are some hesitations about Joe Biden, whether you want to talk about his record, whether you want to talk about his cognitive abilities, which people on the left and the right have criticized during this campaign. There are different things to go at Biden for, depending on what you want. I mean, even the old age thing, a lot of people are speculating that he may be a one-term candidate, someone who just runs for 4 years to get President Trump out of office, and then maybe someone else will come again. I mean, he has called himself a vehicle for the progressive movement. Is that what you think that this is all about, is taking Trump out of office and instituting a more progressive administration?
I think that if you would ask some of the Democrats, I think that's what they would lead you to believe. That's what they're attempting to do. It's not a winning strategy by any means. It's not a campaign of solutions or actions. It's a campaign of we're not Trump, we're not President Trump, so vote for us. I mean, there's a growing movement called Settle for Biden, the hashtag Settle for Biden, and the at Settle for Biden movement. So things like that are, they're not inspiring anyone to get out and vote for him or whomever he decides to choose for his vice presidential candidate. So these are the things that we're seeing coming out of this, Democrat side here with Joe Biden.
And I want to talk about that too, because the settle for Biden thing is a little bit interesting because I know that it's a lot of
Mhm.
progressives that are saying that. Joe Biden isn't necessarily their ideal candidate or anything like that. But we have seen the Trump campaign as of recently take aim at Joe Biden's record for wanting to cut things such as Social Security, such as cut things for Medicare. Is there more of a population for Biden to lose among the progressive wing of the party than there is the more moderate wing? Do you think that more moderates would be willing to go to Trump, so therefore the Biden campaign should be focusing on the more progressive wing?
I think that that's what we've already begun seeing. A lot of independents and more moderate Democrats have decided to move over to President Trump, and they know that their business, their family, their economic success and well-being will be better in the hands of President Trump than in the hands of a Joe Biden potential presidency. And I think just them thinking about a potential Joe Biden scares them to death.
And I think that's a really interesting point because when we look back on 2016, there were enough Bernie Sanders supporters in the primary who either voted for President Trump or didn't vote at all for Hillary Clinton. And that was enough to sway big states, whether it's Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. That was enough to make a decent difference in that election. So when we look at what the Trump campaign is now doing, they're taking aim at Joe Biden for a number of different things, trying to alienate him from the moderate part of the Democratic Party, as well as the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, because that could be enough to sway them. But what does the Trump campaign need to do between now and November to reach out to those moderate, maybe on the fence voters?
I think that what the campaign has been doing so far is fantastic. They've been doing incredible grassroots efforts that I've seen coming out of Ohio, coming out of Nevada. The Black Voices for Trump campaign offices are constantly registering voters. You're seeing new Black voters, new Black, more inspiration and inspiring uh, thoughts coming from the Black voters towards President Trump's. I mean, a new Rasmussen poll came out this today that says that Black approval ratings for President Trump is at 36%. So we're seeing a change in demographics. We're seeing, historically Black people who have traditionally voted for Democrat candidates are now moving towards President Trump. And simply because they see the economic success that President Trump has brought to our communities so far, and we want to see more.
And I think you touched on the important point right there, too. It's the economic policies. I think that a lot of people would agree that there's a realignment taking place in our political atmosphere right now. A lot of people really don't have a home in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, but there are things that President Trump is doing as far as the economy goes that do resonate among people, regardless of their typical political stance or their demographic or anything like that. And I think that as of recently, we have seen President Trump kind of pivot to that more economic message, acknowledge the fact that we are coming out of the coronavirus pandemic, and at this point forward, it's about building back the economy. And I think a lot of people are hesitant about Joe Biden when it comes to that effort. Would you agree?
I would absolutely agree. There's nobody more well suited to bring our economy back to greatness than President Trump, because let's remember, he's the one who got us there in the first place, and he's the only one that can get us back.
And it's an easy case to make. All you do is look back at the 2008 recession and look at the anemic growth coming out of that. And I know that Joe Biden wasn't the president at the time, but he was the vice president, and he championed himself on being an active vice president. So I think that he has to take some responsibility for that if he wants to run on the Obama legacy as well. You can't have both at the same time. So I think that's something, too, that we're going to see more and more of over the next 3 months. But Corrin, I appreciate you coming on tonight and breaking down where we stand in this effort. Thank you.